Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Final Destination. So, the first thing that I noticed about this film is how, in all honesty, it was pretty simple. Most of the deaths kind of have a trains, planes, or some kind of automobile kind of feel to them, but there are certain things that are fairly unique in this story that, of course, can have us understand why this at some point was to go on and have a franchise of other films. At some point, bringing a character back in another film from this film. Even though, when seeing that character being brought back, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a veteran person and they're going to skin the cat yet again. Yeah, not so much. But either way, also, we are to have at some point one of these Final Destination movies that were to give us the ability to choose whether or not a person was to go on and still die, but die in a tweakingly different way. And so, when realizing that you could not choose whether or not a person could live or die or not, really that is to just be like a waste of time for me, because a lot of times the scenes were to be the exact same no matter what choices you made. Or a lot of times it would just be like, oh well, like they missed the banana peel this time, but wait a minute, there's a much more horrific death that is going to just be there anyways, so what's the difference? That movie was so disappointing. But anyways, it is what it is. Because when really looking at it, if you would have saved every single person in that film, then they would have to justify putting those characters in another Final Destination movie, and you couldn't have had that. Or really, they could have just rebooted after that anyways, and there would have been no connection to any of the characters from this prior film. So, teeing it up, what is this movie about? So, we of course go on to find a number of French students going off to France. It seems that I'm assuming that this is during some kind of break or some kind of summertime. Really, I think a lot of people could say that this story is already far-fetched of why would a whole class be going on a trip to France. And in all honesty, I, of course, was to go on into a Spanish class, a Spanish-speaking class, and come to find out through that class, I was to find out that uh, it seems that this teacher was to also tell certain people that if they go into a certain like level of Spanish class, that they are to, of course, and offer a trip to Mexico, which probably means you're going to have to pay out of pocket for that kind of thing. But it seems that all these characters were pretty rich, so I guess they were to go on and easily have the money for any of this. So luckily for them, right? And that was like, okay, so like this is a legitimate story. It's not something that they just kind of bizarrely made up for this movie. No, there's a thing that actually makes sense here. So, but again, you'd be like, how does everyone in this class be able to afford this expense? But also, why wouldn't this movie, if they did go on and actually make it to France, have this then turn around and just become like the movie Hostel? But anyways, let's move on. So, we have Alex that is consistently getting these bizarre hints that something is going to go horribly awry. And I will hopefully go on and explain some of those when we get into spoilers. So, further and further, Alex is to go on and take a dump before the flight. And so when he goes on into the plane, he then is to quickly be having this nap. I think it was a poo nap. So we have Alex, who is to all of a sudden see this plane go down in flames in his own mind, in his vision, and that might go on and give a portion of the beginning of this away, but you have to realize that these characters need to have gone on and been in a bigger chunk of this movie, so it couldn't have ended this quickly for this film. So we go on and have Alex, who is to have this vision, as if this is Jeepers Creepers, and Alex is to now want to go on and tell everybody to get off the plane because this plane is going to explode. Everybody is realizing how unrational Alex really is. People are to even get into fights with Alex, and so that leads a number of people being pushed off the plane. So we have these people at the airport waiting to probably go on and either get arrested or get questioned about things. And so the plane ends up taking off and exploding like Alex's state. Everyone is to look at Alex like he is a freak or that they all hate him, even though they should be thanking him for him saving their lives. How ungrateful are all of these people, in all honesty? Not a single one of them, like, legitimately, like, really thank Alex, but if anything, we just have certain characters that are to even more so just ask Alex, like, well, hey, like, since you had that one vision, like, can you go on and, like, tell me other things? Can you, like, tell me if I'm going to live tomorrow? Are you going to tell me this? You're going to tell, are there any survivors? And Alex is just like, I don't know. I'm just getting hints at these things. And so it seems when Alex is to get these hints, he then follows them to find out that whatever his hint was to actually tell him that something had really gone on. And so Alex is to start to really be the only one who could be close enough to figure out that death has a design, but with that design, there's an order to it. And so Alex needs to go on and figure out that order, that design, and then go on to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together to realize who is going to be next in this order, in this design, to then have Alex figure out a way to beat and win, which is to not really beat and or win. It's just a stalling effort because at some point all of these characters are going to die. It's inevitable. But when also looking at it, it seems that there is to be one character who, in that person's own way, is to go on and figure out a way to be in a sequel movie. So, with that said, somebody figured something out, but not quite long enough, if you catch my drift, because if you've gone on and seen sequels of this film, you'll understand what I mean. So, with that said, I would say that Final Destination has to go on and be a good film. Like, a definite thumbs up, but I'm not going to go on and grade it very high because this movie is to, of course, be a very simple one, probably compared to a lot of others. So, more than likely, if I were to go on and see sequels of this movie, I think I would go on and possibly grade them higher than this first initial movie. And so, with that said, that's why the grading is possibly so low, because there probably is better Final Destination films somewhere down the road. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just go into spoiler territory, as I want to just go on and just talk about this film. Like, I feel like there wasn't much for me to go on and state anything really just bad about this film, because I don't think that this is anywhere close to being a bad movie. There wasn't any problems. There was, like, if anything, I like I kind of just like still had fun watching this film, even though I can complain how like maybe simple it was. That could be the only bad thing about this movie. But again, going into this movie could really just have you be interested in watching other ones of this. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just go into spoilers. Let's go into that double 5 time territory because it's about that time yet again to, of course, go into spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about that time to get to spoil. Woo! This movie. So, we of course go on and have Alex, who is gearing up for his flight to go to France. And so, we have Alex at first, who is to have this ticket on his luggage that his parents are to realize is on his luggage. And so Alex has some weird, goofy, like luck charm thing. And so Alex is to notice that there is some tag still on his luggage. And Alex wants to keep it on, but his mother is like, whatever superstition that you're thinking about. Because Alex is to have gone on and borrowed his father's luggage. So we go on to have Alex, who has this part of his luggage ripped, to have then Alex's father, who of course is to be Ken, telling Alex, it's like, well, hey, like you're 17, you're going to France, like you have your whole life ahead of you. What could go wrong, Alex? What could go horribly, horribly wrong? And Alex is like, yeah, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? I don't know. Tell me, Dad. So, we then, of course, are to have Alex kind of meet up with his best friend, who, of course, is Todd, on this bus as they are going to make their way to this airport. And we have Todd, who, of course, has an older brother named George. And we have their dad going on and giving them some money to be like, hey, man, like, enjoy your trip. So we have Todd, who, of course, is talking to Alex and mentioning that they should probably figure out a way to take a crap before they go on the plane. And I'm like, well, like, in my brain, I'm thinking, like, there's going to be a number of hours that they're going to be on this plane for. So either way, like, if you don't crap, when is it going to be possible that you probably are going to crap next? Especially if you have a weak bladder. But anyways, so we have Alex and we have Todd, who's dropping a deuce before the plane. And so we then have them go on to have Alex realize that Alex is to hear this song on the airport's radio that is to connect to some artist who died in a plane crash. And then also, Alex is to go on to have at some point where he is to find out that his departure time is the exact same as his birthday. We also, funny enough, had a moment where Alex was to try and turn off his alarm clock, and it read like 1 a.m., I think, in the morning. And all of a sudden, the 1 o'clock ended up flashing as 180, which of course was to be the one of the flights. So Alex then goes on to go into the boarding of this plane, going on to find out that Todd is trying to get his seat switched with certain girls and so on and so forth. So we then have Alex, who is talking to these girls wanting to try and switch seats. And so we have Todd, who is desperately telling Alex, please do not do this. Like, no. And so that way, we of course can have Todd, who can possibly try to figure out a way to talk to this girl and maybe go on and possibly be staring at a girl for who knows how many hours on this plane. And so Alex is to immediately go on and let the girls sit together. And so now Alex is to try and adjust the table tray thing that like kind of sits in front of him, and he twists the thing and the thing just falls down, and he's like, okay, this sucks. So we go on to, of course, have Todd, who's like, well, I guess I'm just gonna go on and like I'll just like watch cartoons or something like that through the whole time I'm here for. So the plane is to, of course, lift off. We have the French teacher, who, of course, is to be Larry Murnau. Larry, whoever that is. He, of course, is to go on like, yeah, let's do the wave, everybody, because the plane is taking off. So I guess that could be just a good luck charm, I guess, bizarrely. I don't know what that is, because I've only flown on a plane once going to Utah, and that, of course, was to see my uncle and aunt at one point. So I've been on a plane once, but, like, really looking at it, I would probably never have the money to go on and do that again. Yeah. So we go on to have the plane lift off, and then the plane goes on to, at some point, slowly but surely have problems, and then we have a moment where the plane just rips open and certain seats are flying out of the plane, and then the plane explodes. Alex is to feel the burning hot fire upon his face, and then Alex is to go on and wake up, realizing that these two girls again are to ask Alex if they can switch seats. Alex then freaks out, realizing that he's going to rush to this other seat to find out that again the tray does not work. Alex is then realizing that he has predicted every single moment of what is to happen here, to the point of then Alex not Groundhog Daying it. Instead, he's like, I want to get frickin' out of here. You can also assess that this movie is almost quite similar to Source Code, because of course we had Jake Gyllenhaal, who was to go on and try to prevent some bomb happening on a train and try to figure out how to prevent it, or who was to go on and be the culprit of all this. But again, a slight bit tweakingly different than this movie. So we have Alex, who is to pressure himself to get off the plane because he realizes that this plane is going to crash or explode or whichever. Either way, at the end of the day, people are going to die. So Alex is then to rush off the plane, and we, of course, have people stopping him, which then leads to, of course, having guys like Carter. There we go. Carter usually is to go on and have black hair in a lot of his movies, like Forsaken, which also he was to be in with George with. So it's kind of funny to see that Brendan Fair and also Kerr Smith were to also be in this movie, as well as Forsaken, which actually is a pretty decent vampire movie. So Carter is to go on and get into a fight with Alex about what Alex is stating here. And so that leads to a number of people that are all pushed out to get out to be on the airport side of this whole thing. So we have Luton, who is talking to Larry and telling him to go back on to plane because of course Larry is to go on and speak French much better than she can. So it's like, hey, go on, go with the students. Like, I'll stay here because I know all these students and like I'm like really just worried about them. So like I'll make sure that all these kids get taken care of. And Larry's like, okay, I'll just go on and leave. So come to find out, Alex starts talking and starts mentioning how he just felt that he had to leave that plane. We also had it to where Clear Rivers is to have also had that same suspicion because she was to go on and feel exactly what Alex felt. And going on and making these two perfect for one another the further and further we get into this film. So, and we also have Alex, who is consistently looking at her newspaper picture at some point in this movie, but then also turning around and wanting to get a certain adult magazine. So, what was he thinking exactly there? He's like, I want me some of that Clear Rivers. It's also funny because I thought this girl's name was Claire, but even when looking at the subtitles, it's like, okay, obviously this girl's name is Clear, but I couldn't even realize it, like her name was Clear. I wanted to justify a legitimate name, but no, this girl was Clear Rivers. All right. Was it like one of those, like their families, their parents were hippies, and so they could have been called Moonbeam? This is like the Lost Boys all over again, and I don't think I ever went on and stated that in that review. So we have the plane take off, and again, the plane ends up exploding in air, and we even have it to where it affects this airport because the windows break. So now everybody's going on like, whoa, Alex was right. And again, we're not going to be thanking him at any point for saving our frickin' lives. At some point, we even have it to where Carter is to even get saved by Alex twice. Doesn't thank him though, because why would he? But so, we have Alex as well as a number of people that are all going on and talking to these FBI agents, both Agent Wine and Agent Shrek. So, when we go on, we start to ask these people a number of questions. Like, of course, for Alex, they go on and ask him, it's like, well, hey, like, why were you going on and stating what you were stating? And Alex is like, well, I just had this feeling. And they're like, well, did you like really like believe that any of this was true? And Alex is like, well, no. And then they were like, well, then why did you leave the plane? And then Alex is like he didn't really have an answer. We also had the agents going on and asking Clear why she left the plane, and Clear was to state that the only reason why she left the plane is because she had this feeling that she needed to believe Alex. And so, going on, we, of course, had the agents ask Luton why she was to, of course, not get back on the plane, and Luton was to state, it's like, well, like, I felt that I had an obligation to take care of these students, and that I went on and told Larry to go on ahead and leave because he knows more than I do. So, come to find out, like, all these characters had a reasonable answer for all of these questions, so on and so forth. So, and why we have, like, Sean William Scott in this movie, I don't quite understand. it's good to get the guy gigs, but like I guess he was to try to be like a comic relief character, but to me, like I really just didn't like him in this film for whatever reason. But so after the FBI are to go on and question all these people and couldn't come to any clear conclusions that any one of these people could have caused this accident, and they could not further go on and completely understand the accident, but it seems that the news was to go on and at some point covered this. Oh, we also had at one point where Todd was to explain the fact to the FBI agents what he had gone on and done, that he needed to get off the plane because his best friend is to have some kind of mental breakdown. And so George was to tell Todd to go off and see if Alex is okay. And then Todd realizes that his older brother is now dead. Because, of course, George didn't leave the plane also. It was only Todd. So, speaking of Todd, we're going to get to him fairly soon in this movie. Because, of course, we are to go on and have our characters have a memorial at the school where they have this bird. I don't know why it's a bird, because that seems very, like, it seems very odd to have a bird on the thing. But they have this memorial for all the people who had died via this class, and they have this big, massive statue of a thing. I'm like, you would have thought that would, honestly, with the number of names that were for that class, you thought it would have been a lot shorter, but or a lot smaller, but still. Anyways, so they go on and they start dropping flowers by this thing. And so when Alex seems to go up there, we have a number of other cast members that are also going up there. Carter is to tell Alex, it's like, well, hey, just because you saved my life doesn't mean I owe you anything. And Alex is like, don't. Like, it just, So Carter is to always be in Alex's grill, wanting to really just fight him or wanting to kill him. And so Carter is to tell Alex that he is to choose his own destiny. And Alex is like, yeah, whatever, buddy. Like, go on, just do whatever you're gonna do here. Like, I don't care. Like, stop getting in my face about all this. And so, when Alex is to go on and talk to Luton, Luton is to, of course, be very afraid of Alex, to state that she doesn't want Alex being around her because she gets freaked out by him. So, we have Todd that ends up going up and dropping a flower like Alex did. And so Todd is to mention that Todd's dad is having a hard problem with this. But at some point, Todd is hoping that they can kind of get past this moment and that both Todd and Alex are going to go on and go to a Yankees game one day. And Alex is like, yeah, man, because I miss you. But don't take that the wrong way. Todd's like, no, I get it. Like, you need somebody. Like, you need somebody to talk to. And plus, this is really difficult. So, after the memorial, we then are to go on and have Alex that is to look at this newspaper and see that Clear Rivers was in this photo talking about this whole memorial and so on and so forth. So Alex is to consistently look at Clear Rivers' picture, and then he goes on and gets a adult magazine, but it seems that he doesn't go on and do any beef jerkin. So instead, it seems Alex is to go on and take this magazine as we have this moment where this cat goes on and scares Alex. So Alex tosses this magazine into this fan to where all of a sudden all of these pieces of paper all go on to shred up. And right next to Alex ends up appearing the words Todd. To where Alex is like, okay, what does this all mean? So, come to find out, Todd is going to the bathroom to take another dump. So, to take a poo. So, after that, we have a moment where it seems after this flushing of the toilet, oddly enough, the water of the toilet starts seeping out. But then, weirdly enough, once it is to do what it is to go on and need to do, it unseeps back within of where it was originally. Very weird, very confusing. So, we have this demon water from this turlet trying to go on and kill a man. Because we come to find out when Todd is to have this kind of clothes rack, or this kind of clothesline, that is to be right by his shower curtain and shower and tub. We go on to have Todd slip, fall on this clothing line, and he then ends up getting choked by it. And now we, of course, have Todd that is in this tub that he cannot magically get out of, and he is getting choked. So he is desperately reaching out for these scissors that are possibly way too far for him to obtain. So Todd, the longer and longer that he is constrained by this rope of sorts, he then is to go on and die here. So Alex is to go on and make his way to Todd's place. Maybe Alex was to have gone on and wanted to go instead to Clear River's place, to just be going on and be like, yeah, I've been thinking about you all day. I can't get you out of my head. Maybe we should do something about that. But no. Alex is instead heading his way to Todd's place to go on and find out that there is an ambulance who, of course, is to take Todd in. And we have the FBI agents who are, of course, now tied to this case, as they can feel that it's somehow connected. So, and they're also very quick at doing all of this anyways. But so, we have Todd's parents that appear to Alex, and we have Todd's dad who is stating to Alex that because of what had happened recently, that more than likely Todd had just taken his life. And Alex is like, no, like, me and him had even gone on to make plans about, like, what we were gonna do, like, after this whole memorial, after, everything, and so, like, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense at all, that he would have gone on and done that. Well, Todd's dad gets more upset and is to walk off just because he's not going on and listening to Alex, because basically Alex is to become basically the new boogeyman of this town, if I'm to go on and give a Halloween Ends reference within this review. Because if you've gone on and seen a Halloween Ends, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, Alex has become the boogeyman of this town. And everybody try to avoid this guy because you might die, or he might know that you're going to die next. So, after we, of course, have Todd who is to die, we then have Alex noticing that Clear Rivers was also at Todd's place. And so now we have, of course, Alex who is to want to confront Rivers, about why she was there that night. And so Rivers was to state that the reason why she was there is because she felt that she needed to like be there, and that every single time it just has her being pulled to also wherever Alex is, and that just so happened to be at that same location. So like Clear is just feeding off of Alex, and she has this controllable urge to do everything that Alex is doing, to the point to where Alex could probably have that same kind of thing. Like, I like how you can go on and have people with these kind of these gut feelings or something like that. There's often quite a bit of times where I always have this like kind of thought that I have this kind of gut feeling. Sometimes, like oftentimes more than not, it does pan out. But I can't go on and just state that okay, well, I'm psychic, because why would I go on and take a huge, massive risk to then try to see if like I can work this, or if it is to really legitimately be a thing. So with that said, moving on. So we are to, of course, have these FBI agents that are to really start to get annoyed with Alex or with Clear, anybody who is to be just suspicious. So we have both Alex and Rivers who are to both go to see Todd's body one last time to try to figure out if there's something that Todd's body could tell them or have some answer for them. And so both Alex and Rivers go to the site of which that this mortuary, or the place of which people are to pick out coffins and at some point deliver their dead relatives to this mortuary. So we, of course, then have Tony Todd, who a lot of people know as Candyman, who is also to be involved in the Final Destination franchise. And so we have both Alex and we have both Clear that go on to find Todd's body, and then Tony Todd, who is Bloodworth, goes in to explain to these kids that death has a design and that they need to go on and figure it out. And more than likely, once they figure it out, they will probably tick off death itself, and then death will come on and try to get to them. So, telling these characters that it'll probably become some kind of unusual game that they are to be forcibly participants in. They're contestants on who's gonna die next. So, we then go on to have our characters try and figure out the pattern of this. And so we go on to have Alex, who's watching the news, and he is to all of a sudden find out the pattern, as he is to realize that the news is to give him this picture that is to have that all these explosions of this plane were to go off in a certain order, and so then Alex is to tie those certain explosions or those certain things of the plane going off the way it did, to then realize that the seat order is to technically be the pattern, is to be the way of which the people are to die in. And so with that, we then have Alex, who is to then realize who is going to die next, who of course is Luton. So, oh wait. We have another person that dies before that. My bad. So, let's get to that. So, while we have Alex and while we have Clear, who are talking to one another, we go on to find Carter, who is with his girlfriend Terry, and we have Carter who ends up seeing Alex and is to drive like a wild man to get to Alex so he can again confront him and realize that Luton is leaving town because of him, as well as what had happened also. So, because when the kids go on and see Luton, Carter is to ask Luton how things are going, and Luton's like, well, I'm leaving town. And Carter is like, oh, Alex, see what you did? Like, you made this woman leave town. It's like, well, it's better than her being dead, right? But so, we also had it while Carter was to drive his car crazily. We almost had Billy on his bike while he was, I guess, doing his delivery job, almost go on and get into a car accident which could have led to him possibly dying, but he wasn't to, of course, be next, so he wasn't going to die there. But then, of course, Billy is to run off to Carter and be ticked off at him. So, while we go on to have these two bickering, we then have Terry, who is to tell the rest of the group that she wants to go on and get past all of these deaths, this whole plane explosion, and everything like that. She wants to just live the rest of her life, and if Carter is going to spend the rest of his going on and trying to kill or consistently argue with Alex for the rest of his life, then bygones be bygones, as she's going to just get out of here. Come to find out, she's going to get out of here more than we think, because we go on to have Terry, who is going to get hit by a bus. Now, the blood ends up spraying all over our characters, and so now we, of course, go on into the next death, which is again Luton. So, Luton is to be starting to pack up her things, and so as Luton is to look out her window as she is calling one of her family members, trying to state that everything is to remind her of great memories in this town, that she has lived here for so long, but then also there is a lot of memories tied to the whole plane crash, or the whole plane explosion. So, that is what's pushing Luton to leave. And so, but again, while Luton is to be on this phone conversation, she is to look into her window to realize that Alex is consistently going back and forth through her yard. And so Luton goes on to call the officers, the FBI agents, to get rid of Alex. So that leads to these FBI agents asking Alex, like, well, hey, like, why were you at Luton's house? Because we're starting to see a pattern emerge, as also Alex is to mention that he sees a pattern emerge also. That it seems that every time someone is to die, that Alex is to be by their home. And so they're thinking that Alex could have something to do with these deaths. So Alex is a state that more than likely, if he can go on and figure out a way to stop death from killing people and trying to help them, that all he needs to do is get out of him talking to these FBI agents to save someone's life. And so we have these FBI agents who's like, well, like, we have nothing on you, so, like, you can go on and just kind of leave here. And so, come to find out, we have Luton. Luton is to put on a like a thing of tea, or to kind of put this certain thing on this Bunsen burner, and we have Luton who is to light it. while she goes on and is to start to clean things or is to start to adjust things, we have Luton who gets these weird feelings and this weird imagery. So, but Luton goes on and is to continue do what she is to do, and come to find out when Luton goes on and does at some point boil her water the way that she wants it to, it seems that she turns around and instead grabs this vodka bottle and is to pour it into this mug. Come to find out, this mug has a crack in it, which leads, of course, Luton to continue to walk around with a very leaky mug. And why wouldn't she have gone on and noticed this? Because movie will conveniently have it happen. I thought I would have gone on and noticed a leaking thing from out of my mug, but who am I to say? So we have Luton that's going through her house, just leaking alcohol all over, to have this one computer that is now to be full of vodka. And then the computer that is not plugged in still is to have this electrical issue to where all of a sudden it starts to smoke and explodes, which then leads to a piece of the screen going into Luton's neck, having us realize, like, okay, this girl is going to easily bleed out and die here. But so instead, Luton is to go on into her kitchen, where further things are to start to happen that will, of course, lead her to continue. If we weren't sure that she was going to die before, we are definitely going to now. Because, of course, Luton is to go on and have eventually where she is to be on the ground, and then she is trying to desperately grab for this towel, and conveniently the one towel that she has, of course, is to be right on this rack of knives. That when Luton ends up grabbing this towel, the whole rack of knives, the whole setup of knives, all fall onto her, and one falls right on her chest, killing her off here. That, of course, is when Alex is to make his way into Luton's place, as Alex is to start to realize when he's walking back to Luton's place how there seems to be some fire that is going on that is to possibly give him a hint that Luton may have her house be on fire. So by the time that Alex is to get to Luton's place, we obviously have it figured out that Alex, by the time he gets there, this girl is already going to be far too gone for Alex to be able to save her whatsoever. So Alex tries to go on and help Luton, and he grabs this knife and pulls it from out of Luton's stomach. But we already realize that Luton's dead, and that also this house is going to explode soon. Probably from a gas leak, but probably from any number of things. So we have Billy, who of course is Seann William Scott, who is biking his way through to Luton's home, to then see Alex running from it. And so if Alex wasn't going on and to have asked Alex about whether or not that he is really going to die at some point at a young age, because he was to go and talk to somebody and they were to state that, and he asked Alex if that was going to be true, we may go on in the next couple of minutes here figure that out. Because, of course, Alex is to go on at the memorial and ask Alex that, because he went on and did his driver's test. So we go on to then, after Luton is to die, we don't have the connection to Alex to Luton's death, luckily for once. So We then have Alex, who is consistently going on and wanting to get everyone together so he can try to explain to them what all is going on. So we have Clear that is to find both Carter and both Billy and get them all together so they can go and pick up Alex. So now every single one of these characters are all in this car together, and so now Alex is to try to explain a little bit, but not give it all away, that he had finally possibly figured it out how this is to all work, but he doesn't know the exact specificities? That's not a word. Specifics of it all. So Carter is to then ask Alex, it's like, well, am I next? And Alex is like, well, I'm not 100% sure. And Carter is like, you just don't want to tell me that I'm next. And so Alex is to state to Carter, it's like, well, when really thinking about it, if I did tell you that you were next, it's not going to make it any easier. Like, if anything, it's going to make it a lot harder. Like, every small, tiny, little, minute decision that you are going to make in the next few seconds, like, could have at some point a drastic effect. So, like, it could be any small little thing. So, come to find also, like, when you have 4 people in a car and one of them might die, the rest might die with them. But so, Carter is to also realize here that if basically there's no point in completely stopping this, that it's almost fighting the inevitable, Carter then is to drive wildly throughout the streets. And that, of course, is to lead Carter then to stop his car in the middle of these railroad tracks. So we desperately have Alex and Clear telling Billy to get out of the car so they then too can get out of the car. And so Carter is to be left in this car, and Alex is to try to convince Carter to get off the tracks or to get out of the car. And so Carter is to state, it's like, well, you know what? I think you're right. I think it isn't my time. But then when Carter tries to start the car, it seems that we go on here and have Alex having a problem starting the car. So Alex is to also try to get out of his seatbelt. He's having a little bit of a problem trying to get out of his seatbelt. Because Alex was to go on and have this vision that a seatbelt was to break. And so Alex is like, okay, like, maybe there's somehow some connection to what I just did see as a vision. And also Alex was to see this glimpse of a train. And so Alex was to go on and try to rip Carter out of his seat from his car. And at the last ditch second, Alex does pull Carter out of the car. And we then go on and, of course, have Billy, who is now frustrated with Carter to the point of him going on and stating it's like, well, hey, like, I don't know if you're next or not, but you need to get the heck away from me. And come to find out, by the time Billy states that, we all of a sudden have a metal piece from Carter's car that ends up going flying and ends up decapitating Billy, having him fall over and then die. And so, really, that cements that Alex was right all along, that there is an order of things and that everything is going to go on and do the way that he thought it would. And so now Alex is to have a good grip about who is to go on and be next now. And so, come to find out, the person who is to go on and be next is actually Alex himself. So, Alex is to want to go on and figure out a way to beat this. So, Alex then is to engineer this place of his. I think it's like a cabin. And so, Alex goes on and tries to death-proof this whole cabin, and it is to duct tape and is to lock all things into certain parts of this place. And so Alex then goes on and is to open this can of food and is to be wearing gloves while doing it. So Alex is to eat this thing of food, and he's like, all right. So come to find out, Alex is to realize that there is this bag that blows over that all of a sudden knocks over this fishing rod, which is to grab this one door that is to try to go on and open up all these items. So Alex then realizes that there's a possibility that when he slowly opens this door, that there was to have been one thing that was to possibly give him tetanus, while he was to realize that there was to be this hook that had this rusty part of it. So Alex is to slowly but surely realize that there's possibly nothing he can do to have gone on and avoided everything, because there's going to be some small, tiny little thing that could come to try and kill him off here. And so, like, I kind of like the whole, like, domino effect of how this movie is to go on and do what it does. Because there's sometimes where there's, like, a whole timing mechanism for some of the deaths where it's like, wow, like, that seems kind of interesting how that all worked out to have that person just die. And, like, most of the deaths started to come off that way, and it was kind of interesting. But so now that it seems Alex is to re-go through the seating order, Alex then does realize that he never went on when he was really on the plane to switch his seat, because Alex was thinking that he was in the seat next to Todd, but instead Alex never left his original seat. So come to find out, it's actually clear who should be next up to bat here. So, meaning that she's going to die next. So, we go on to have Clear, who is talking to the FBI agents as she is going on to do these designs and so on and so forth. So, there's even a moment where both Alex and Clear are to go on and have this time together where they talk about how Alex is thinking if there's some alternate universe where the plane did land and everyone is fine. And Clear is to mention this story about her, of course, going on to have her father go to get a carton of cigarettes, and there was someone who had walked up behind him and told him, "Hey, don't turn around." And Clear's father was to think that this was to be some joke, and so he did anyways. And this led to Clear's father getting shot and killed, which led to having Clear's mother, who couldn't handle the loss of Clear's dad. So then, really, Clear's mother just checked out, to the point of her going on and finding some other guy after this whole event, which, if originally Clear's mother would have been more like rational, she would not have gone on and been with this guy. But so this guy did not want to go on and have Clear as a daughter, so neither did Clear's mother. And so they just figured out a way how to get rid of Clear, which left her by herself to just do all of these kind of art designs, oddly enough. So we then go on to have Alex, and we have Clear. And so Clear is at her place, and it seems that she is to get this feeling that there may be something bad going on here. And so we go in and find that some like electrical problem is happening at Clear's house. So we have this like electrical cord that is flying uh, nearby Clear's place, and all of a sudden we have this dog that is yelping at this thing. So Clear is to try to go on and take care of this dog, and it seems that we can possibly go on and have this cord that is flopping back and forth that is to possibly go on and have this pool kind of come undone and have this water fall onto the ground here, which then leads Clear to jump up onto her home that has this little ladder that she can kind of climb onto. And so Clear avoids getting electrocuted. But then we, of course, go on to have Clear realizing that she's going to die soon, that she may be next, because she has this feeling. So Clear then goes on to get into her car to then again realize that it seems that Death is working overtime by having this cord now flopping and hitting Clear's car. And we, of course, go on to have all of this, all of these alcoholic, uh, kind of paint thinner things coming into the mix here. So we have Alex that runs to Clear's house realizing she's going to be next. So we have the whole FBI that is chasing after Alex. We have the FBI that is stating, hey, Alex, we're only trying to help you, so on and so forth. Like, hey, we're on your side, buddy. And so Alex continues to just go on and is to make it to Clear's place and is to figure out that if he can just go on and possibly save Clear because he does like her, that he can possibly go on and skip or go on and like stop Death's design and they can possibly beat this. So Alex is to tell Clear like how much he or how much she means to him. And so Alex is to go on and take this cord and is to then go on and have seemingly this cord blow up into Alex's face. And so where he ends up kind of getting blown back here. So we have Clear and the FBI agents who are trying to go on and deliver CPR to Alex, thinking that he's going to die. So the next thing that we end up seeing here is that some of the cast members are to all go on to France and come to find out Alex is to be with them. So they've all finally made it to France after all, and so they're all celebrating that they have finally beaten this and they are finally okay. So we then have them start to theorize that, like, wait a minute, like, when really thinking about it, what if, like, we didn't actually beat this? Like, who would have been next anyways? And so Carter goes on and tells Alex, like, well, like, when really thinking about it, like, I'm completely safe because I know that Alex, you would have been next anyways on this list. So Alex is starting to realize that maybe he's starting to see things, maybe he's starting to feel things, and so Alex starts walking off to get further and further away from both Clear and Carter. So we then go on to then realize that Clear is to have this vision about a bus. So Clear is to tell Alex, like, hey, stop. So Alex to hear that, and so he stops right in the nick of time for this bus to go on and miss Alex. But it seems also that this starts this chain reaction, which then leads to some seemingly sign that is to fall over. And so we all of a sudden have Alex, who is to be right by this sign, as of course it is coming. And we have Carter, who is to fly in and grab Alex in the nick of time before this sign hits him. And so now Carter is to ask Alex if that was to have gone on and skipped Alex, then who is next? Come to find out it was Carter, and the sign comes flying back and then hits Carter and kills him off here. And we would have to go on and imagine that it also was to, I assume, kill Alex off also. But then again, you never know. They could have gone on and done another Final Destination movie where at some point Alex could have gone back in the later franchise to just be like, oh, hey, yeah, he was still alive all along. They could have written him out to still be alive, but when looking at it, they bring back Clear in another film to where eventually it will not go on and state what fate that she is to go on and have in that other film. But when really thinking about it, she does not go on and end up in another film. So take that with what you will, because I think after that they go on and they just reboot the whole thing and they kind of try to do this all over again. And so, with that said, I'm going to go on and just get out of here. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about Final Destination. Let me know also if there's anything that I forgot about. There might be some favorite lines of yours that I didn't go on and state here because I didn't really mention anything much about lines. I just really focused on the events of this movie. So, let me know how you felt about this film because some people can go on and really like this movie, or some people can go on just like think that this is a silly or cheesy film and whatever for whatever reason. Some people may not like this at all, or may go on and just like other Final Destination films. So with that said, I'm just gonna go on and get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.